Hello, I'm Jarvis Lewis, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create an ebook using Storyist for Mac OS. Now, ebooks, I don't know how familiar you are with this system, but essentially an ebook is a very long website. And it can be tricky to create that, and some services will offer to do that for you if you give them a Word document or a rich text formatted document. But Storyist can do that just on the fly, and it's a really convenient way of working with multiple documents or turning multiple documents into something that you can read on an e-reader. So for me, it's a great way of reading early drafts of my manuscript that I would have otherwise printed out earlier, and that costs a lot of ink, costs a lot of paper, whereas with something like my trusty Kindles here, I can indeed do that without any paper. So I've got a couple of these. I've got the Kindle DX, the very old version, and I've got a Kindle keyboard, which is also kind of, I don't know how many years ago that is, but of course you can still get that absolutely marvelous Kindle Paperwhite, which is what my wife has, and it is very possible to create a document that could just be uploaded to one of those, and then you can read it and make corrections accordingly. So often where other services fall over is that you give them a file, they kind of reformat it, and the only time you can actually check what it looks like is when it's already live on the store. That's really not what you want to do. You want to have something physical in your hands and see what it looks like, what it feels like, see if the table of contents works out the way you had intended it to, and if that's all okay, then you upload that to the e-store on which you're selling it or on which you're distributing it with. So in the ebook world, there are essentially three types of files that you can distribute. You never distribute your actual project file, so your Word file or your Pages file, or in fact your .story file from Storyist. You're gonna either, if you're working with the Amazon Kindle system, then you're gonna distribute a .mobi file. Amazon calls it the AZW file, which is essentially, or the Kindle 8 format, Kindle 3, Kindle 8 format. Those are technically based on the .mobi standard, which is the file extension .mobi, and you can transfer those files to your Kindle via USB cable, and you can just see them as if somebody would have just downloaded it from Amazon and looked at it on the Kindle. And it'll work on any model of the Kindle. And another format is called the EPUB format, so .epub is the extension. That's a different format. Essentially it does the same, but it's not compatible with the Kindle. It is, however, compatible with things like the iBooks application for iOS and Mac devices, and you can also get Android readers for that. I believe it's also compatible with the Kobo reader and with the Barnes & Noble Nook kind of e-readers. So those all take the EPUB format, whereas Amazon is kind of the only odd one out that takes the .mobi format, but it's one of those things. Either of these support digital rights management, but I'm not going to discuss that here. And then the third format that you can distribute your content in is, of course, PDF. And PDF can be read by any PDF reader, so that includes iBooks on iOS, but it also includes something like Goodreader and any PDF-based application, so like Preview would do that. PDF is also interesting because if you're intending to create a paperback version of what you're writing, then you may want to go the PDF route and give that PDF file, a specially formatted PDF file with the correct margins and the correct formatting and the correct page size, to a printer like either CreateSpace or Amazon's KDP service, or whichever distribution there is around. Blurb, for example, do that, and of course there's offset printers who also work with PDFs these days. So, but how do we do it? Let's discuss ebooks first. And the way this works, so by ebooks I don't mean PDFs, we'll discuss that in another video, but by ebooks I mean the magic file that you can upload to something like the Kindle, for example. How do you do that, or something that you make available for upload? Well, there's, first of all, philosophically, you may have a manuscript, but you may also want to distribute something like a copyright information and a cover for that, and perhaps a title page. And maybe you just want to have the contents of 5 or 6 documents tied together and put that all on a single ebook document. And how do you do that? You have to kind of paste the text into some dummy document. And no, you don't. Not with Storyist, you don't, because it really helps you do that. And let me demonstrate this in a copy of the manuscript I've written with broken bowels here. This is a version that I've kind of stripped several things out of here, and all I'm left with is my manuscript here with vast amounts of chapters on the left hand side here, and I'm going to close all these down. I've also got a title page, which technically I guess I don't really need. Also, it's got the wrong date on it, so kind of this is kind of, you know, version 1.2 now, and it's already kind of July the, what did I say, was it the 10th or the 11th? Let's have a look here. It is the 10th. There we go. So I'm going to just use that and see what it looks like. I haven't even tried it, but it's just a title page. If you ever want to create a title page for something that you print out, you can just head over here and say create a new text file, and then there is a title page for a novel or title page for a script. And that comes with a bit of formatting, and then it just makes it easier for a title page to be printed out, and then, you know, change it accordingly. So that, I guess that's what I've done here. So I've also got an image that's just something I've dragged in, which is a cover that I've created with Amazon's cover creator, I believe. And it's a very simple system. You upload a picture, so the background picture, that's I think Julia shot that, and then you just edit some text here. You have several templates, and there you go, off you go. And I've also got another thing here, which you can see the formatting is slightly different. That is a copyright notice. It also contains the title, my copyright. It contains the ISBN number, or the ISB number, or the ISBN, whatever you want to call it. And it contains some information that this book is not meant to be medical advice, and obviously does not replace a doctor's visit. So I can ask Storyist to use all these files and create a single .mobi file that I can upload to the Kindle, or a single EPUB file that I can then upload to my iPad or share with people that they can open it either in the Kindle app or the iBooks application on your iOS device. And here's how we do that. So like I discussed earlier, there is it works by heading over to File, Export, and then Storyist will be able to go ahead. So it doesn't just go ahead. There's several steps involved. Let's go through this. If you hit export, Storyist will say, what do you want to export? So you can either export the files, or you can export an ebook, or you can export the outline. So those are various options that you have here. In our case, I don't want to export these files in various formats. So I could say my main document here, which is this, I'd like to export that in Microsoft's Word document or docx format. Or I'd like to export this in open on ODT format that's compatible with LibreOffice and many other applications. Or you want to have your screenplay and export it to Final Draft, for example. Or that is also possible. Or Scrivener is another application that is a little bit like Storyist. I've never tried it out, but it also gives you several writing tools. So you can import Scrivener files, and you can also export Storyist files so that Scrivener will understand it. It's just that sort of wide thinking. I really appreciate that about Storyist. So you can work with multiple files. You can even export your file as a big HTML page if you want to do that. But in our case, we don't want to export a file, we want to export an ebook. And as soon as you do that, then this format thing at the bottom here changes. So you can now select, do you want to export it as a .mobi document, which is compatible with Kindle, or an EPUB document, which is compatible with kind of the rest of the EPUB e-reader community. So let's use Kindle, because I've got a Kindle, and that's that. It now allows me to pick any of the documents that I have in my project. So I can either select all, or I can say, actually, I don't need this, I don't need that. So I can only tick whatever I want to include in this file. So in my case, I do actually want to have all of them. And you notice that they're not in the right order. So if I were to share this file with somebody, then I'd like perhaps the copyright notes to be at the top of everything rather than at the bottom. And what happens to the table of contents and all that? Well, patience, young Skywalker. All we do is we click next, and now we get to step 1 of 3, and this allows us to arrange the items in the order that we want them in. So in my case, I'd like my manuscript to be, I guess, at the back, and I'd like the title page perhaps to be at the front, and after the title page I may want my copyright notice. And then of course there's the cover. Perhaps the cover should be at the very front here. Now the cover is a little bit of an oddball because it is contained in the .mobi file, and it won't really show up on the Kindle unless you specifically navigate there. So it will be included there, but because its book roll over here is set to it being a cover, it is actually doesn't really matter where it goes. So the program that we use to convert this to a Kindle file is actually provided by Amazon, and they'll kind of take care of putting it in the right place. So it doesn't matter if it's at the beginning, at the end, or somewhere in the middle, because Storyist already declares this as the cover. It doesn't matter. Now, everything else is declared by default as the book body, which means it will be displayed as the in kind of the formatting that the e-reader likes. The title page is a little bit different because I can actually say this is the title page. So I can do that. That's nice. I can also declare perhaps the copyright notice as a preface, but I'm going to just leave it as a book body because the Storyist is going to do something else. It'll create a table of contents for us depending on my chapter headline. So that's something else that happens. But I'm going to declare this to be the title page, and then the copyright notice and my actual manuscript will be the book body. Now I hit next. And now I can give it some title and author information. If you do that frequently, you can build presets here, and I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to pick the Broken Bowels preset, and well, actually now it goes and does this already, so it does kind of everything here. And it also populates this page, but you can fill this out. The title is whatever appears in the home screen of the e-reader, so this is different to the actual file. So I'm going to call this demo just so that we can find it. There's several versions of that on the Kindle already, and you can put a description in, and you can put all kinds of other metadata in here. Did we pick the right order here? The title page should actually be somewhere, perhaps here. There we go. Just something I wanted to check because I picked a preset. If you find yourself doing this a lot, then a preset can really help, and I have done this a lot, so there we go. So hit next, and this is something actually I can't show that here because I've already installed it, but if you do this for the first time and you haven't used this export dialog before, then Storyist will give you instructions of where to go to install something called the Kindle Gen application, and it's a command line tool that you just download once from Amazon, and you copy it anywhere on your computer where you like it, and you have to open it once so that your computer doesn't throw a warning. Storyist will talk you through that, so it's not really a big issue, but sadly I've already done it, so it's not something I can show you right here, but it will ask me where that program lives, which in my case is here. I just copied it to the applications folder, and I could change it if I ever needed to move it. So this is the program that Storyist will now talk to if I hit next, and then I'm being prompted to where do I want to save this thing. So perhaps I'm going to put this into the in the Kindle versions folder. I hit export, and then a few seconds later Storyist will have exported a complete ebook version for me. Now, of course, you don't believe me that because I can't really show you anything. So let us hook up my Kindle to the computer, and let's copy this thing and see if it's worked. So if you're working with the Kindle, then you need one of those USB cables, and as soon as your Kindle shows you something like that, then that means it's connected, and you can see it is now available on your desktop. So if you double click it to open it, you can see that there's several folders and files in there already, and in the documents folder, this is where you can copy your own documents. So these are all the ebooks that I've downloaded, and these are some documents that I've copied there. And my document, I believe it was in Dropbox. The default folder for Storyist, by the way, in Dropbox is Apps Storyist. just in case you're changing that, make sure you change it on iOS. It doesn't really matter for the desktop version, but in order to sync it up with the iOS version, it's very important that this is set correctly. Otherwise, Storyist for iOS won't be able to find your documents. So it's one of those things. And I've saved it in Kindle versions here, and there it is, the last one, Broken Bowels Demo. So it's 3.2 megabytes, and all we need to do now is drag this file over into the documents folder here. So I'll just drop it there, and then at some point it should have copied that over here. There we go, there it is. .mobi file. And for this screen to go away, don't rip the cable out just yet, kids. Make sure you drag that Kindle icon to the eject icon, or if that's too cumbersome for you, just right click on the device and say eject Kindle, and that'll take a second or two for this screen to go away. This runs on Linux, by the way. It's very interesting, but of course it takes a little bit of time because it's a very slow kind of system. As soon as that's done, you can take that cable out and go to the home screen. So in my case, that's just a button here. That's the home screen button, and on it you will find one new document. And here, this is it. So Broken Bowels Demo. This is exactly the title that I gave it in that Storyist dialog. And if I navigate there and I open it, then what happens is we get to see the title page. So this is exactly like I typed it, and it's actually, it's something that I haven't included in the final manuscript. I guess I should have done that because that looks so much nicer, actually. Yeah, I totally didn't do that. It's one of those things. Learn something else. If you go back one page, then you will see, whoops, that is my wife. I just need to let her in. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry about that. I'm back. So as I was saying, the title page looks like this. And now if we go and navigate forward, we can see that it starts with the copyright page, just like we've seen it on the what's the best way to do that? There we go. As we seen that on the screen earlier. And it's notice that the formatting has changed. So this is now all provided by the e-reader. Also notice that there's no hyphenation in here. That's because hyphenation is something that is applied on the e-reader, much like it would be applied on a web browser. So it's not something that the Kindle keyboard supports, or the Kindle DX doesn't support that either, but the Paperwhite and the Kindle Voyage, they all support hyphenation. And that means the text looks a little bit better formatted. But also the font is now a cohesive font, so the copyright message did not look like this. That looked like formatted in Helvetica, and this now was formatted in Courier, and you can see that this is no longer the case. So all the formatting, all the fonts are being provided by the e-reader. That's very important to notice. So now I can just keep reading, and that's what the Kindle does. But another interesting fact is, if you head over to the menu and you head to the go to option over here, then you can see that there's several other things that you can go to. For example, the table of contents, which is before the title page. So it's very interesting that Storyist kind of builds that in, and if you click on that table of contents, then it'll go to the beginning of the table of contents. And these things, they now match the chapter headlines that I had applied, and they're links. So if you navigate to them, then the Kindle allows you to go to any of these things directly. So that's very interesting. In front of the table of contents is now the cover. So if I go back, if I navigate back, then you can see the cover. It's of course not full color because this is a black and white e-reader, but on color capable devices you would see this in color as well. So that is how it works. That's how to apply your Storyist documents that you have in your project in order, and let Storyist kind of just create the whole thing with the help of the Kindle Gen file. On .mobi, it's more or less exactly the same, except for that you don't need the Kindle Gen thing. So Storyist can take care of that by itself. It doesn't need an external tool for that, but you still have the same dialog that allows you to order the documents and then export something that you can share with friends, family, and total strangers. That is how to create an ebook from your project via Storyist onto your e-reader. And in the next video, we're going to discuss how to create a PDF edition, either for viewing on a PDF reader or for exporting it and giving it to your publisher to create a paperback version. Join me for that. Bye-bye.